Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the Education Enclave podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by the reigning Teacher of the Year in the Victorian state system, Erin Beissel. Erin is currently on maternity leave from Clarinda Primary School, but we managed to squeeze in our chat while little Audrey was having a nap. We discussed professional learning, leadership, literacy, and all things education. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I did. Okay, Erin Beissel, thank you for joining me. First one-on-one podcast for me. So
I feel very honoured.
Well, thank you very much. So I guess for me, I've been wanting to step up the podcast side of things, and you're reigning Teacher of the Year. So
As you keep saying.
Yes, the awards night for this year is this Friday. So thought it would be very nice timing to have our catch up today.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I guess for me, so a bit of context for everyone. Teacher at Clarinda Primary School, currently on maternity leave, so you've had a big 12 months.
It's been very big.
Audrey's just gone down for a sleep, so hopefully she realises what we're doing. Yep. So I'm trying to think of the first time we met. Now, it wasn't the first time we met, but the first time we spoke, I feel like I was in the back car park at Bastow on the phone.
Yep.
To you and Dee, your partner in crime at Clarinda.
Yep.
And I think your principal was in Canada at the time. And you'd been referred to me by Steve Willie. And that was the first time we spoke.
Yeah.
The first time I was on site at Clarinda Primary School, I looked like I'd been in a bar fight. I'd never met anyone, and I had a skin cancer cut out, like right in between my nose and eye, and black eyes. It wasn't a good look. Now, was that the first time we met? Were you in that meeting, or you might not have been?
Yes, I was there, and we had organised some beautiful muffins and pastries, and then realised that you didn't want to eat any of that, so that was
right. Well, I was a bit, obviously, very self-conscious, but we've worked together. I think that might have been either late 2017, early 2018, and I guess we've worked together since. So I didn't scare it off too much. So, okay. So there's some context. I've got lots of questions for you.
Great.
First one: did you always want to be a teacher?
It's a great question. No is the answer, but there's a bit of an up and down to go with that one. So when I was in primary school myself, I grew up in West Gippsland. I grew up in a tiny little place called Brandy Creek. It's a real place. And I went to Bullen Primary School, and there were 12 kids in my year level. And quite a bit of flexibility in our little tiny country school with what the teachers got us to do to, demonstrate our learning. And when I was in grade 6, our teacher at the time, Mr. B, so lots of credit to Mr. B, was very open to creative options for us to do projects and things particularly. And one of the options that he presented to us was to teach a class to the grade 3s. And so I picked that option. And so I taught a bunch of grade 3s about erosion at the time. I planned this whole lesson. And I remember that year, Mr. B saying to me, "Erin, you are going to be a teacher one day." And I said, "No way. Get stuffed. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a teacher. I'll prove you wrong." And so off I went into high school. And, there were a good couple of years there when I was going to be a famous actress. Right. Obviously, I was going to head to Broadway and, because I was the lead in the school musical. So that just, naturally, I was definitely Broadway material. Little while later, I started to figure out that actually maybe I wasn't Broadway material. And then I kind of thought, oh, maybe I could teach drama. I love drama, and I think I could probably do that. So I started to think about that. then a little while later, I realized that actually I hate high school students. Like, no offense to any high school teachers or students, but high school was not my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
And then my thinking kind of went, oh, actually, the idea of teaching is not so bad. And I started looking into primary teaching and haven't looked back since then.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Some of that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think it's interesting as teachers, or at least this is something I feel, is you can kind of identify kids that will be possible teachers. I think for me, it's more in the secondary space, and whether they identify with that or not, I don't know. Whether just see some characteristics, or I'm not sure that I can identify exactly what they are. You just get that vibe or that sense. But okay, so how did we end up at Clarinda Primary School then? What was the process there? And
Yeah. That's got a bit of a story to it too. So my grad year, when I was first hired as a teacher, I got hired at a big school, about 1,000 kids. I won't name it, where I had done my 4th year placement. And I actually had an absolutely amazing first year mentor at that school, Angie Martin, who I think she's a big part of why I love teaching so much, because she showed me how much she loved it. I had an amazing experience. I was in the classroom next door to her. We had the walls open. I had all this mentoring and support and encouragement from Angie. But outside of that relationship, I didn't have a great time at that school. Bit of workplace bullying went on. I was not super happy, and I didn't feel like I was teaching the way I wanted to teach. And I wasn't really allowed to teach the way I wanted to teach. So I decided at the end of, I did 2 years at that school, and then decided I wanted a change and started applying left, right, and center for everything I could find. And it took a while to find the right school. I had, lots of interviews at different schools, and lots of them felt great. But when I walked into the interview at Clarinda Primary School, walking into the grounds, I felt like this is a school that matches me. I don't know what it was. It was after school. There was not even anyone there, but I felt like I fit in here. And I went into that interview and I sat down and I felt so encouraged and welcome. And I just felt like I belong straight away. And luckily, they felt like that too.
I guess I see, having worked at the school the last 5 or so years, I haven't done anything socially with any of the staff, but I can see how cohesive, ES teachers, everyone, all, within reason. I think it is, such a really nice vibe.
We bandy about the word Clarinda family, and it really does feel like that. At the start of this year, when I went on my maternity leave, I worked the first couple of weeks and then went on leave. It was really quite emotional, saying goodbye to people for a while, because it really is like my second family there.
Well, we won't get too emotional too early in this, because your partner in crime's going back to Ireland as well.
Oh, can we not talk about that, please?
I know.
A bit, yep.
Well,
my buddy.
Yeah, we won't go there.
No.
But shout out to Dee. The three of us work so closely together.
We have. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. I'll come back to that. I want it to be about you, but when we're talking about supervising teachers, so my first placement, remembering that I was secondary, they put you in a primary school, and you're in 5, 6. So mine was Meriden James. Now, that was many moons ago, but fast forward a couple of years ago, I go into Yarra Road Primary School as a consultant, and the assistant principal is Meriden James. And I'm like, has to be. And like, for me, I'm sure Meriden doesn't remember me, because it was first placement. It was just observations, those sorts of things. So it was sort of like, what a small world. And then one of the superstars of Royale Primary School is Mary Mentor, and Mary is the heartbeat of the school at Royale Primary School and has been forever. Shout out to Mary. She also had her 35-year acknowledgement of working for the department just this week, and
Wow.
I bumped into Mary, and I think I said to her, "Look, you get a gold watch," tongue in cheek, and I think Mary thought that she was actually going to get that, but that might be at the 40-year, which Mary will definitely get. But at that ceremony was Meriden. Meriden also is in, so Meriden and I just keep being connected. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that fun fact.
I hope that Angie and I keep being connected, because she was an amazing mentor.
Yeah. Well, speaking of connections, I did bring up Dee and the fact that she is going back home to Ireland with her family. But there was the two of you who did Leading Literacy. And I'm 2015 or 2016?
2016. So
2016.
So Dee and I started at Clarinda the same year. We started in 2015, working at opposite ends of the school. She was in 5-6 and I was down in 1-2 and then prep. In 2016, our principal at the time, who was Jean Hellerud, was looking for some staff to take on Leading Literacy, who would kind of go off and do some learning and bring things back to the school. And I was only a 4th year teacher at this point, but I said, "Oh, look, I'm really interested in literacy. I'm really passionate about it. I'd love to do it, but I totally understand if you've got other people who are better qualified and you want to send them instead." I'm very lucky that Jean said yes. And Dee put her hand up for that as well. So off we went, and we had the most amazing year. We still talk about that year that we went to Basto, into North Melbourne multiple times throughout the year. The best breakfast at a cafe just down the road. I mean, that's not why we went to Basto, but it was a really good breakfast. And just soaking up all this knowledge from Kay and Steve, and meeting with other educators who were just as passionate as us, and getting all this knowledge that we then went back to school, and we were so supported by our principal, Jean, and assistant principal, Karen Mackay, as well, to share that with teachers and to start implementing change. It was, just a really exciting, inspiring year. And Dee and I have worked together and continued to kind of lead this literacy journey since then, so since 2016.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's our connection in that I was in the first ever cohort of Leading Literacy, which was called Establishing Literacy Coaching in Your School initially, before it became Leading Literacy. I guess for me, that course has changed my life. And Kay and Steve obviously being at the core of that. I guess let's talk a little bit more about you as a teacher. So in the time I've worked with you, I've seen you in prep, I've seen you in 3-4, and I've seen you in 5-6. Have you taught at 1-2?
Yep, I've taught 1-2. Yep,
you've done the whole.
I have taught everything in my time at Clarinda, including in grade 2 before I came to Clarinda.
That is so good. So I guess I talk to a lot of primary teachers about how important I think it is to teach at the bookends. I think it's brilliant if you teach across the whole every year level, but I think it's the bookends that are most important. What are your thoughts? What are your favourites? Do you have one a year level? What did you learn about foundation 5-6? Anything in between? What are the standout things for you?
Well, I definitely agree, Danny. I think everyone should teach prep and 5-6 at least once, but I really think it's really good for teachers to move around year levels, not necessarily as quickly as I have. I've moved around a lot, a year here and a year there. I'm pretty flexible and happy to do that, but it does have its challenges. So I think, a couple of years in one spot is good. You sink your teeth into it. But I think knowing where the kids start from and where they get to, or we want to get them to, is really helpful. It just gives you such a big, broad picture of who kids are and the kind of learning journey that they've come on. I think every year level has favorite things about it for me. You know, I love the junior school, and I love picture books, and I love you know, singing a song while you're waiting for someone to pick you up, and I love seeing how much they take in knowledge and grow. And I love 3-4 because they're starting to get a bit more independent. They're starting to, you know, spread their wings and really show off their own interests and personalities. And then I love 5-6, being able to talk to them almost like adults, which sometimes coming straight out of prep, I kind of felt like they were adults, but they're not. You still have to treat them like children. But, you know, reading books like Nevermore with them and really getting to be excited about it, and not just pretending that I'm excited about it because it's a book the kids are excited about. There are definitely things I love all across. I would say I think prep is my real number one favorite. I think the amount that you see preps grow in that year is so exciting. I don't think there's anything that can beat it. And I think my favorite thing about prep, and I think this applies to all year levels, is looking at them and knowing how far they can go. So as teachers, and Danny, you often talk about this, we need to have really high expectations for our kids. You know, if we say, oh, they'll achieve this much this year, then that's how much they'll achieve. But if we say, actually, they're going to achieve this much, you know, all the way up here, people who can't see my hands because you're listening to a podcast, use the inflection in my voice. You know, if we say they can achieve all the way up to here, they're not all going to get there, but some of them will.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to every year level, but particularly prep. There is so much room to move. It's the most exciting year level, I think.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I guess there's a lot of noise in the early years space, and we won't go there today. But you know, I think exactly what you're talking about, that high expectations and still teaching at point of need, and yeah, it makes me think when you talk about picture storybooks. So I want you to put your mum hat back on. So what are you reading to Audrey at the moment? Are there some go-tos?
Oh, absolutely, there are go-tos. I mean, I think I know Harry McClary off by heart. Actually, like, I don't need the book. I can actually just tell you the whole story right now, word for word. Where is the green sheep? When we opened it up, the smile on Audrey's face, she's like, here we go. This is great. I'm ready. And she has just started getting excited about, we're going on a bear hunt as well.
Right.
So yeah, but we have so many books in this house. Audrey, I'm obviously turning her into a book lover, I think, because not only does she can now unpack books out of her own book box. She's up to that phase, and you know, she'll unpack them and then kind of look at me like, okay, let's read a book now. But she's now discovered my bookshelf, and so she, you know, now that she's starting to pull herself up to standing, this is where she comes to try and get the things off the bookshelf. So
no, that's cool. I guess I've shared with you my two kids who are now 11 and 13. That Horton Hatches an Egg and Jungle Drums were two of the big ones amongst many. But I know you're a Harry Potter massive fan.
yes.
And, you know, Liv's been through that. Sam's at Order of the Phoenix at the moment. So, and we just recently, as a family, watched Fantastic Beasts. So anyway, as a bit of, yeah.
I think in terms of reading class novels to your students, when I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone to my grade 3-4s is one of my top teaching experiences. Reading the part, you know, spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen or watched it, I don't know who you are, but if you haven't, you know, you read the bit about Ollivander giving Harry his wand and, you know, saying, you know, oh, that wand, you know, its brother gave you your scar. Well, one of the girls in the class audibly went, oh, and it was just one of the best moments I've ever had, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Great.
I guess there you're highlighting, you know, the strengths of teaching other year levels.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so all right. We talked about leading literacy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think one of the many strengths of yours is that you see teaching and education as a profession, and you've always wanted to grow, always wanted to learn, and that, you've got your Wonder Woman cape on, because you're doing your masters as well at the
I am, yes.
moment. Three
Nearly
weeks, 3 weeks to go, I believe.
can't wait.
So, talk to us a little bit about that and what you found.
Yeah, I think you're right when you say that, Danny, that I do see teaching as a profession, and I have always kind of taken every opportunity to learn and to grow. And I think that's really important for teachers to do. I think um, we can always do better and we can always do more, and teaching is always changing. And so I think it's important that you take the opportunities to expand your knowledge, or learn something new, or upskill yourself a little bit, or revisit something that you already know about and see if you can make it stronger. I think we all need to do that, and it's not easy, but it's so rewarding when you do. And yeah, I've really been so lucky to have some opportunities provided to me, like to do leading literacy. But then I have sought other things out as well. So I've always put my hand up for courses. And then, yeah, I decided to take on a Master's of Instructional Leadership. Through doing leading literacy and leading, along with Dee, leading the literacy at Clarinda Primary School, I really realised that I was really passionate about literacy education, but that actually my passion has changed and grown and become about school improvement in general, and about schools being places that focus on teaching and learning, and continuously seek to do that better all the time. And I think that's what I'm really passionate about now, which is why I decided to embrace the Masters of Instructional Leadership. Thanks for your encouragement to take that one on. It's been really great and really challenging to think about school leadership in different ways, but to keep that kind of instructional focus. So constantly thinking, how is whatever area of the school I'm thinking about at the moment, well-being, classroom management, human resources, whatever it is, how has that got the instructional needs of my students at its heart? I think that has been really encouraging, because that's the thing I really care about, and to know that that's what great school leaders can do. Yeah, that's been really exciting.
Love it. So 3 weeks to go. So it's your capstone, is that right?
Yes.
And so for everyone, what's your focus?
So I'm doing a research project on dialogic teaching, which is using kind of effective talk in the classroom to help students not only learn content knowledge, but improve their communication skills. But I've been researching the impact that professional learning on dialogic teaching has on teacher practice. So I've had some wonderful volunteers from Clarinda Primary School who've given up their time to do some professional learning with me across term 3, and I've observed them in their classroom, and they've reflected on their learning and their practice. And they have all changed their practice to include more dialogic teaching, which is great. So good on them.
Yeah, so good. Interested when you finished it. I'd love to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Going back through the other subjects that you've covered over the last 2 years, COVID affected as well.
Yes, all been on.
Yeah. What stands out? Is there a particular subject or that really?
Danny, it feels, I mean, I know it's only 2 years, but I did have a baby as well, so I'm a bit of mum brain.
Yeah.
I think right back at the beginning, learning about effect sizes with John Hattie, bit of a name drop there, but that was very exciting.
Yeah.
Was actually so interesting to think about considering change as growth over time, not just an immediate, what can you see? But reflecting on, whole cohorts of students as they've changed over time and gone through the school and things like that. And to kind of look at change and improvement from that lens and that kind of long-term perspective.
Yeah,
That
cool.
was really great.
I know one of the days we worked together, we looked at sort of that matrix of growth and achievement and using that with cohorts to sort of which kids are above where they need to be, but have also had more than 12 months growth.
Yeah, that high achievement and high growth, and that constant refrain that we have as teachers, but it's true that high growth is more important than high achievement, actually. And that we want to have both of those things. We want students to be high achievers and have high growth. But if you have a low achieving student who's had high growth and they have come a long way, that actually that is a huge celebration.
Yeah. And I think that sort of approach is terrific. I think it can lend itself to some people gravitating too much towards summative assessment. And I know you are a huge advocate for formative assessment, and it's just getting that balance that I know we've talked about a lot. That, anyway.
I actually think, Danny, that the doing that subject and thinking about those kinds of things and effect size and growth and that kind of stuff helped me be less anti-summative assessment than I was.
Right.
I think, and it helped me see the value in things like NAPLAN as well as a measurement for tracking growth. I think I still am totally pro formative assessment, and I think majority formative assessment. But I think before doing this subject, I was like, let's just do all formative assessment. Who cares about summative assessment? We don't even need that. What a waste of time. But now I can see the value in it for tracking data. But I definitely think if the majority of what you're doing isn't formative assessment, then you need to rethink it.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Last year I got a really nice email from Robbie, your principal, saying, "Hey Danny, we are going to nominate Erin for Teacher of the Year. Can you write a commendation?" Like, yeah. So, reigning Teacher of the Year, and you're going to have to hand the baton over on
I know, I'll have to find
Friday.
I don't know where I put it.
Yeah. So, talk to us about that. I know, it was COVID affected, unfortunately, those sorts of things, but talk to us about the process or anything to do with getting that recognition.
Yeah, it was a huge shock to be nominated even. I think I had seen that the awards existed. I think some people don't even know that they exist a couple of years earlier. And I had kind of thought to myself, I wonder how someone gets nominated for something like that. Like, that's really interesting. And then I was in the car in a queue to get a COVID test. So I was in one of those enormous, driving up a parking lot, waiting to get a drive-through COVID test when Robbie Mallett, our principal, called me and said, yeah, we want to nominate you. And I was just in complete shock. I did not expect anything like that. And it was such an honor to be considered for that. So I helped to write up, some of the things that I have done, kind of worked together with Robbie to make sure we didn't miss any bits. And we submitted that, and then, you wait a long time, and then eventually someone called me and said that I had been shortlisted, and my jaw could have hit the floor. I was just, and I was at school when I got that call. So I just, popped down to Robbie's office and, "Oh, Robbie, just letting you know that I've been shortlisted." And that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So from shortlisting, which was based on the kind of selection criteria that we had written, there was then a panel discussion. So I had like an interview panel, and my goodness, did I think that I biffed that. I just, I answered things as best I could, but there were a couple of questions where I kind of felt like I just stared at them and was like, I can't think of any examples, sorry.
Yeah.
So Then a few more months go by after that panel, and yes, we had the awards night, and unfortunately I didn't get to go to the base of the Regent Theatre, and I can't go this week, unfortunately, because Audrey's just too little to leave at the moment, which is disappointing. I was looking forward to getting dressed up and doing that, but I got dressed up at home and we bought some non-alcoholic champagne because I was pregnant, and yeah, I sat here at my desk by myself, looking at my little Zoom screen and just waiting and waiting and waiting. And it got up to my award. And so I thought, okay, I'll smile nicely because people will see me. And there were a few people watching. I think you were watching, Danny, and
I was.
Robbie was watching. I think Robbie was actually out to dinner at a restaurant, but he went to sit in his car so he could watch the awards. So that was very dedicated of him. There were a few other people watching. And I thought, I'll just smile nicely for my bit, and then someone else's name will get called, and I'll have a little clap, and that'll be it. I can go. And then they said my name, and I honestly thought I misheard it. It was such a surprise. I did not expect it at all. It's such an honor and very humbling as well.
Well, obviously, I think your colleagues at Clarinda and myself all think it's very, very well deserved. And yeah, I guess it's a bit unfortunate with COVID and those sorts of things. I think the other disappointing thing for you is sort of the bottom of the region is very much like Hogwarts, and it is an amazing venue. But I think you are a very humble person, but I think you did tongue-in-cheek say to me, well, maybe next time you win something, you'll go there and get to see it. And
right, yeah, I'll just have to go next time.
And so with the winning, you get what comes with that? Like I think you're looking to do some professional learning that's sort of spawned out of it.
Yes, so the amazing prize that comes with the award is a lovely trophy, which is on the bookshelf, not right here, but in the kitchen, because my husband wouldn't let me put it in the cupboard. He said it had to go up on the shelf. But also $20,000 to put towards professional learning, which is just a mind-blowing amount. So generous and really exciting to think about. And that can cover the learning itself, or CRT, like replacement costs at your school, or travel, those kinds of things if needed. It's just a really wonderful prize. As someone, like we talked about before, I've always wanted to get as much as I can out of my profession and keep growing and keep learning. And so to get a prize like that and think, the world's my oyster, what do I want to learn, was really exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me this morning while Audrey's having a nap. So really appreciate you taking the time. Always prefer catching up with you in person, but
hopefully we can do that again next year.
Yes, I think we've got some days booked in, so looking forward to that. And good luck to all the award nominees for this Friday. And let's make sure you get there at some stage to see the venue in all its glory. But thanks heaps again, Erin. Reigning Teacher of the Year. And
thanks, Danny.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Erin.